Morning, everyone. Um, this morning I'm going to share a little bit of experience, on digital social media in action. I'm going to talk about, the difference between reach and engagement. Well, just to set the stage, right? I have started in this social media for about 2 years, and it's still a very new, evolving media. Okay, a lot of people are still trying to learn how to maximize its use. There's always new technology, new platforms that are coming out, and because of that, I'm not going to talk so much about the technology and how we're going to use it, but more on how to use the different types of platforms, to maximize what we want to achieve, which is to spread God's word. But my company, Lithium, I'm not here to sell you a product today. Lithium Technologies has been around for quite a few years, and I'm going to gather some of those learnings that the company has, to help us to optimize the use of this technology, right? I'm not what you call a Christian practitioner of this social media, but I'm a social media practitioner who is a Christian. Okay, I actually serve in the Wesley Methodist Church in Singapore as a member of the sound crew. So I don't actually handle the social media for Wesley, but I think it gives me a good idea of what to do next. Right. So today's agenda, right, is that I'm going to talk about why is social media so difficult to use. What's the human relationships, and how they happen online and offline. Actually, as Ken mentioned just now, there's really not much difference. Now, what is reach versus engagement? Then I'm going to talk about search engine optimization, and I'll give a little reason as to why we need to talk about that, and then putting all these pieces together, to really achieve our objectives, of spreading God's words and reaching and connecting, the pre-believers, to Christ. Okay. Okay. Social media. What is social media? Right. It's a medium that allows people online to interact on a large scale. Okay. The word interact is very important. Okay. I'll discuss a little bit shortly. And it is actually the underpinning of what we call the Web 2.0. With Web 1.0, right, it was more of a broadcast type of technology. People put up a website, right, and other people go there and browse, look at the content. But with Web 2.0, the word interaction comes in because, you can actually post something, right, and other people can follow you, can connect with you, and they can also interact with your content. They can then, repost your content, via retweets, for example, in Twitter. It also allows you to, unfortunately, repurpose the content, sometimes, not to good users. But that is, how social media is, So if you look at social media, right, if you look at all the popular press and so on, a lot of it is centered around, Facebook, Twitter, and in China you have Weibo, WeChat, right? But if you look at the full spectrum of social media today, this is actually, there are many views of it. This is one view of it that is, done by, does this have a laser pointer? Oops, sorry, no. Okay, never mind. Right, so if you look at it, this is actually one view that's put up by one of the very famous social media consultant. His name is called Brian Solis. Okay, and there are many different facets of it. So if you look at this chart, right, Facebook only forms one little corner there, Twitter another little corner there, and Pinterest another corner there. And this chart, because it was actually built in the US and Europe, it doesn't even have all the Asian social media, right? Like for example, Ren Wang, and Weibo, and the QQ and Kakao Talk and Line and all those others, right? So you look at it, it's actually pretty complex, right? A lot of different facets. Then it's also something that is, I would say, very easy, right, for people to put something up there. But then the question is, how then do you get heard among all this? Right, so social media, right, it's easy to use, but very difficult to master. Okay, why? Because number one, there's a low barrier to entry. I think some of you who have built, those websites in the 1.0 days, you'll find that, you need to do a lot of coding, in HTML, JavaScript, and all that stuff, right? It's quite daunting a task. But today, with this Web 2.0 technology, right, you'll find that, even a 5-year-old, 7-year-old, can put up his own Facebook page, can start his own blog, and so on, right? So it's easy to create things like a Facebook page, post video to Youku, and send WeChat message. But the question is, who's listening? There's so much noise that is being generated, right? So I think what the question is like, how then to best use each of the media types, right? How to attract, first you must attract, right? Because you must bring the people to your channel, right? Whether your channel, be your Facebook page, wall posts, right? Your Twitter, your blogs, or your own home page, right? Then next is, how do you engage with these people? And after this, I'll talk, about what's the difference, actually between attract, reach, engage, and then to convert these people to be advocates, and then to start to evangelize the message on your behalf, right? Because I think one of the important things about Web 2.0 is the concept of what we call crowdsourcing. Okay, how you actually harness the power of the crowd, of people who are like-minded, right, to actually contribute and to then share. Okay, so I'm going to talk about a little bit about that. Because eventually, what we want to do is to, to achieve the objective, to help spread the word. Right? So I'm going to start off with, a bit of difference, between network versus communities, right? Because when people talk about social network, I think everything is just lumped together in one. Yeah? Essentially, networks are some things that you bring with you. Okay? Networks are relationships that have already been formed that you bring with you. Right? For example, Facebook, right? That is one form of network. Weibo can also be, one form of a network. Right? But if you look at all the people who you follow, or follow with you, or you have close conversations with, typically they are people whom you already know, that you bring with you to that network that you have. Right? As an example, so the network follows you. So even if you go to another country, you move to another environment, right? The relationships are still there, right? And that actually is your network, and you interact with that network. Whereas a community, okay, has a focus or an interest, right? A special focus or an interest. So you don't necessarily bring with you the relationships. You go to the community because you actually have that interest, and from there you form the relationships, right? So maybe a bit abstract, huh? Okay. So let's say that, here in Indigitous, right, we are a community or an interest group, right? Why? Because we have an interest, and that is to connect non-believers, right, to Christ using digital media. That is our interest, right? And most of you in the room, well, honestly, I've not met everyone here, I've not formed and built any relationships, So there is no really real relationship, right? But we are all brought here because we have a focus, we have an interest. So this actually forms an interest group or a community, right? Now, over the next few days, right, today and tomorrow, we're going to get into some projects. We are going to work together. I think some of us have already started, working with each other, around the table. And, we start to share our experiences, our life stories, right? When we get into a project, we may even fight and argue with each other, right? But with that, the relationship is formed. And, at the end of this, hopefully, all of us form that relationship, and that forms a network. And, that we bring with us even when we go back home, right, to our home countries, at the end of Saturday, right? So I will talk a little bit about developing relationships, right? Because initially, right, most of us start off, not knowing each other, right? Represented by the rather sad face, right? Because we don't know each other. And then, we start to connect, right? It can start off with a handshake, an email, or something like that, right? And we start to connect and we introduce each other. We build a weak bond, okay, a weak tie. But that is the start, yeah? And let's say, for example, we start to then work together. We work on that relationship, right? Then, that actually then builds into a stronger tie, a stronger bond. And it is actually signified by an intensity that we have with that bond, right? It's like, when I first met my wife, right? It's like, it's at the first stage, met her, shake hands, and say hello, each other, and then we connect, right? We go on a few dates together. We work on the relationship, right? And, the bond gets stronger. Now, the thing is that if you don't continue to work on that bond, right, then you will find that it will deteriorate. It will go back to the weak tie. And, eventually, we may even, forget each other, if after a long period of time where you don't work on that bond. So the first stage where you do the connection, right, between two persons, that is what we call the reach stage, right? So reaching helps us to build a weak bond, right? And it's actually the next stage where you do the, spend some time to work on that relationship, build the intensity that you actually get into the engagement, right? You're engaged with that person, that means you actually have that strong relationship. And that's what I want to differentiate, right? And you will see a little later why this between the reach and engagement is important. Now, so what we really want to do is to have that engagement. Yeah, we not only want to bring people in, we want to engage with them, because it is only when we engage with them that we actually get to know them better, right? And they will then be willing to share their experiences, their problems, and so on with us. Yeah. So hopefully, right, after Indigitous, okay, this event, what do we do? right? So we actually go back, right, to our work that we need to do, and we actually then, build focus points around certain things, certain themes, certain objectives, you know, where the group can actually then interact, right? And what we do is we want to attract non-believers, right, to this good content that we have built. And that will actually be building that initial connection with these people, right? But more than that, right? So we want to attract the pre-Christians to our community, right? To spread the message. But more important than that, right? Once we have these people attracted, right? And also among the network that we've built here, we actually want to have more content that will then go into this digital property that we will be building, right? Whether it be an app, whether it be a website, whether it be a community, right? We want to have more content. And that is where the concept of crowdsourcing comes in, right? What we want to do is to get people to contribute to this digital property that we've built. Now, it's very important that, I think you're quickly getting to realize that using the current social networking media may not exactly be the right medium to use. For example, if let's say you're using Facebook, to build this property, right? And then you're getting people to contribute, their life experiences and to share their experiences. Such a digital media property like Facebook or Twitter, the content actually disappears very quickly, right? They disappear under the fold. Once you scroll, once it disappears off the first page, nobody can really find it. Another thing is such content are typically not very searchable either, right? So if you want to refer back, you want to, for example, provide a URL link, you find that it is not very persistent, so to speak, right? So you need to have, such contributions, to be curated, to be archived in some form, so that people can then engage, deeper in depth, with your central focus aims. So it's important that, you crowdsource, the experiences and then feed this into the content and then have this, be searchable, be archived, and easily referred, such that you can then easily share all these, right? And why is that important? You notice that, nowadays a lot of people are, I've got two teenage sons, right? So, they are the so-called the me generation, right? Everything is all about me. And they want everything to be personalized, right? It's like, if this message is not relevant to me, I will not listen to it. So at different points of life, you'll find that people, may be looking for something that actually relates to them. For example, the loss of a loved one, right? So you need to have content which talks about, the loss of a loved one. Or somebody, may have done, something really bad, and now he feels repentant, and, he wants to relate to that experience of someone, who may have done something equally wrong, right? And then, he wants to, is looking to repent for what he has done. So that, is something that you can best source, using this so-called concept of crowdsourcing, where people can actually share their life experiences, in this digital property that you have built. or at least to be able to cross-link it from your digital property, right? So to summarize, what has been discussed just now, right? We're talking about reach, versus engagement. So reach actually allows you to establish that initial connection, right? It needs to have breadth, right? Because you're trying to reach as many people as possible, right, via the digital property that you have built. And it needs to be where people hang out. Right? I think between the online and the offline, if you look at all the slides that I presented, there's actually there is little talk about being online or offline. Human psychology, crowd behavior, group dynamics have been the same, okay, for thousands of years. People people hang out in certain places, right? Because they actually have an objective to achieve, and you need to be where those people are to bring them, to your objectives, right? So in this case, right? So you need to. So nowadays, you get the connected generation, right? They always hang out around these digital properties like Twitter and Facebook and Weibo and WeChat and so on. So you go there, right? You reach to them, but the next thing is that once you bring them in, what do you do? Yeah. You get into the next stage where you actually talk about engagement, right? You need to engage with these people. Engagement has emotion, right? That guy feels attached to you. That person, feels that there is a bond, and therefore that person is willing to share, his problems, and therefore it gives you the opportunity to share back, with that person, right? So nothing much has changed, right, between online offline world. The crowd dynamics are the same. But the important thing is that now with digital, right, it allows you to reach more people, right? And it allows you to kind of shrink the whole world. You can reach people now who are not in your same country, who are not in your same city, not in your same province, not in your same state. It shortens that distance. It quickens the response. Because in the past you probably have to walk to the market to share such experiences, and then later on you have to send paper mail. But now you can actually do it very quickly, via Twitter, via Facebook, via WeChat, and so on, and everybody can be reached, right? So, excuse me. So there is a shortening of distances, right? The fact that you can also respond very, very quickly. Now, the thing is, engagement also has the element of stress, and it has depth, right? So very important as well, that depth of relationship that you have. So online actually allows you to shorten all that. And, with electronic collaboration tools, now you find that you can even work together and strengthen your bonds and relationships, right? Working together via electronic means. You don't actually have to be in the same place, right? Now, once you build a community, or an interest group, right? You will encounter this thing called the Internet 1% rule. I want to bring this out, because I don't want people to feel disheartened, right? This is actually a pretty consistent rule across, most electronic communities. It actually, came from The Guardian, the newspaper in the UK, right? Somebody actually wrote that back in 2006, right? That in any community, you get about 90% of the people who are viewers and lurkers. okay? Not in a bad sense, lurkers. But, they actually hang around, and they actually consume the content that has been created. But, they do not actively participate, right? There's another 10% of people, roughly about 10% of people, who are active participants. Okay, they will post and they will give feedback, comments, and so on. Right? But there will be 1% of the people, who are creators. Okay, they are the people who will create content. They are active advocates, and they will even evangelize. Right? You will see this in all sorts of communities, and interest groups. We actually do have a lot of them in the enterprise world. Like for example, right? I mean, there are people who are absolutely crazy about Apple products or Coca-Cola brand and so on, right? These are the people. And the main thing is that you need to harness the energy of these people. Find who they are, harness the energies of these people to help you to spread the word, right? And that is, again, right, crowdsourcing, right, to find where these people, who are these people, that they can then harness their energies. Yeah, so this is community. Now, with all this, as shown in the first chart, right, there's so many different types of digital media, right? And it's so easy for everybody, including a 5-year-old, 7-year-old, to build his own digital property. So how are you going to rise above all these noise? Right? I don't have a lot of information, about Christian communities, but I do know that from my company's research that 80%, 87%, close to 90%, of the people who are online actually do searches before buying, right? If I look at the habits of my 2 teenage sons again, right? They, everything that they do is kind of like, okay, let me search, right? Where should I go in Hong Kong? Let me search, right? So a lot of them do search before they actually engage with anything. So it's important that something that you actually do something we call search engine optimization, right? To make sure that when somebody does a search, your property actually then ends up somewhere at the top, okay? Because nobody's going to scroll, like flip 3 pages to find something relevant. If it doesn't appear in the first 2 pages, I'm very sorry, they'll go and look for something else, right? So online search has become a way of life of the connected generation. And the other thing that you must understand is also that different search engines use different search algorithms, and they change over time. So I'm not going to talk about search engine optimization. That's going to be something that you can talk for half a day. But just bring that as a point, right, so that you can understand that it is important. Like for example, currently Google and Yahoo, they give priority to user-generated content. So it's important that if you're engaging in an environment where Google and Yahoo are very popular, that you give that you actually have user-generated content, in your digital property. Yeah. And the other thing is that cross-linking and sharing of your content is also very important. Because sometimes people, when they go to the site and they find that, it's not exactly what they want, it's important to have cross-links, whether they be in a sidebar or somewhere at the bottom of the page, that these are additional resources that you can look for. The reason is that, like I said, if they can't find it, they will then click and look for more, right? And you can make that experience a lot as simple as possible, so that they will continue to stay with you. Now, because we are not a commercial concern. I mean, of course, for my customers in the commercial world, this is something that they will never do. Okay, because it's kind of like, what, cross-link to my competitor? right? That's not going to happen. But we're all here to share, right? So that is very important. If you find a link, from a like-minded person from this community, you can actually you should actually cross-share that content. That's actually a very, very good way of bootstrapping. I used to participate a lot in those computer gaming websites, and that's what they do initially. Of course, when they start to become a commercial concern, they've actually, cut off all those links, because they're competing. But, to bootstrap yourself and to build that content, a huge amount of content initially, that's actually a very good way of doing it, to cross-link and share your content. Right? So this is an example. You can probably get this from a lot of other places. Or this is an example of search engine optimization that can happen. This is actually taken from a web page, by this company that does coding, and they actually highlight the difference, between, for example, Google, which you all know is one of the top-ranked search engines in the world, versus Baidu, and Baidu is something that is probably the de facto search engine in Japan. Sorry, China. Sorry, in China, right? And of course, in Korea, right, they actually have their own search engine, right, which is Naver, SciWorld, and all that. So you actually have to know, how the search engine works, the algorithm, right, so that you can again rise above the noise, right? So what that actually works, they may work for Google and Yahoo, may not work for Baidu or for Naver for that matter, right? So you have to be conversant in that and build your web page accordingly. And the other thing is also that you will need to what that was. Okay, the other thing is that you need to constantly change and upgrade because these algorithms change along the way as well. I mean, recently you probably heard that Google has released this new search algorithm called Hummingbird, right? So that's something different. Right. So in conclusion, okay, to use social media effectively, you have to understand, which are those that will give you breadth versus those that will give you depth. Okay. So again, I'm just showing examples. Things like Facebook, Twitter, Weibo, they are actually broadcast channels. Okay. They allow you to reach a very large audience in a very short time. Okay. But you realize that there is very little depth. Yeah. And the other thing is that these do not have persistence, right? So if you go into things like WeChat, WhatsApp, they actually allow for smaller group discussions, okay? And the fact that if the group is smaller, people tend to be more open, okay? People will release their emotions and feelings, and they will share more, and that's also what you want to do, right? And then if you start to have things like online forum, so these will actually be more in-depth, okay? They will allow for deeper discussions, and also very importantly, they are searchable, and they can be cross-linked, right? Things like, WeChat and Facebook, these are not so open to having a cross-linkage and so on, right? Then, of course, personal emails are the most intimate, and they allow for depth of discussions. I think yesterday, when we had the discussion yesterday, one member brought up that people don't read emails a lot nowadays, so you just have to break it up into smaller bite-sized chunks, so that these people will be engaged. Now, so you actually have to look at what can actually give you breadth of reach versus depth of reach. And those are, important things. Oops. Oh, it jumped so much. Okay. So, what we call reaching or evangelizing, okay, what you need to do is use search engine optimization, right, so that it will reach, to our pre-Christian friends. You can use, Facebook and Weibo because you can reach the friends of your friends, especially if you are running, that particular, that wall post. And that will actually give you the reach, right, as I said. Then next, build the relationship, right? As Mark Rady has said yesterday, don't focus on the content, as your number one push. Look at, creative ways. You're saying talk about look at creative ways. But the other thing is also, to build that relationship. Because people will shy away if you just try to push content at them at the very first go, right? It's still, whether it's online or offline, right, the human interaction dynamics are still there, right? People still want to, know you before they want to hear from you, right? The other thing is also that be very aware that one of the tenets of Web 2.0 is honesty in a relationship, right? Don't pretend to be what you're not, because if you get found out, then it actually breaks that bond and that relationship. The thing about social media is also that if you are not transparent and you get found out, the word spreads, just as quickly as a good thing about you, right? So this technology, social media, is free, but it's getting very crowded, right? So you again have to find ways, to rise above the noise. And to do that, as I said earlier, one is search engine optimization, and the other one is, using this friend of friends approach, so that at least people find that, hey, if you're a friend of my friend, therefore probably you're somebody that I can trust. Then the next stage is actually what we call engaging or nurturing, right? To bring them next into an online or an offline community after you have reached. Right? And this is an engagement. It requires things like in-depth discussions, sharing of experiences, and you need to then build that searchable media, like online community, and not things like social networks like Facebook and Twitter, which the depth of engagement, the depth of discussion is limited, and whatever that you discuss then cannot be referred or searchable. Because what you want to do is to build that strong bond, right, with the person who has been converted, so that you can continue to nurture him or her, right? And more importantly, to have those advocates, to convert those into advocates, foster them to be advocates, and then they can then be the next generation of the evangelists to help to evangelize. But again, also remember that there's this 99-1 rule, right? That probably only a small portion will actually be active, and then will be actively creating and spreading the word. But get that first step, right? Reach and then nurture, and then convert them to be evangelists. I think with that, I've ended. Here are some online resources that you can look for. And actually, most of the material that I have, discussed earlier, actually comes from a book that was written by the lithium's chief scientist. It's called The Science of Social. I'm not here to promote the book. It's just that, if you want to find out more about, this sort of relationship and things, you can actually refer to this. He's actually written it independent of whatever products that we're selling. I think it's a pretty good read in pretty layman terms, as to, how social media works and how human relationships are, regardless of whether they're online or offline. Okay? So with that, I've come to the end of my talk. Hope I, have shared some, kind of ideas and, my experiences from the commercial world. And I'm open to taking some questions.
Thank you, Waikong. And if anyone has any questions that you did not send to our WeChat group, please either send them now or I'll have the microphone and we'll come to you. You can ask it directly. But we have a few to start off with here, if I can find them. There's been so much chatter that I have to scroll back quite a bit. So don't worry, it's all good. Go back to the first one here. Even the best networking strategy without content will fail eventually, and great content without a strategy is stale. What are some effective ways to keep a good balance of strategy and content?
Wow. Okay. Well, the thing is, you actually have to keep your content fresh, right? As the author of that message has said. And one of the good ways of doing that, right, is to crowdsource for your content. Now, I think there are some people who say that okay, if I just crowdsource for content, how will I know if that content is going in the right direction, right? Because as I said, sometimes people can repurpose the content for ill intents and purposes. So the good thing is that if you are the person who is actually running that that website or that forum or community or blog, right? You actually have the right to I would say censor, but it's kind of like censure that person, who may post something that is against your or original objectives of running that site or that digital property, right? So you have to be very focused, right? But to keep the content fresh, you can do this crowdsourcing, but you actually have to prune the vine, right? To take those sections that are not healthy, to take them away, unfortunately. Right? But you have to be very discreet about doing that, and because like I said earlier, transparency is one of the tenets of the Web 2.0 world. You have to be open and honest, but if there are strong detractors, you have to put a stop to that, unfortunately. Yes.
Next question. Are there some proven strategies to increase the 1% contributor and 9% active participant rates?
Well, it's actually a very big debate out there. Okay, if you do a search, you'll find that somebody in the BBC World Service, has actually commented and said that as a whole, there's actually more than this 10% active participants. But I think if you grow the group big enough, unfortunately, that's kind of the participation that you will see. I think if you look at it, if you go back to the human communities, right? If you look at a church, for example, if you have a small church, then you find that it's probably easier to encourage more people to participate in events and things that are happening. But as your church grows bigger, like the church where I'm in, you find that it's always the same few people who are participating in all the activities. I think it's easier when the group is smaller. You can incentivize people. You can actually get friends of friends to bring people in to help. But as the crowd gets bigger, it's actually kind of difficult, and it's kind of the 99-1 rule. It's actually kind of scientifically proven, unfortunately. But if your group is smaller, it's easier. So one way is actually to break the groups into smaller groups, and then you can then get how would I say, get more of a peer effort to try to encourage people to participate.
There's a lot of buzz about the 99-1 rule, so By artificially or intentionally increasing our 1 and 9%, can we increase our reach of viewers, the 90?
Sorry, increasing the 9,
Increasing the 9 and the 1.
right? Oh.
By artificially or intentionally increasing them, can we increase the 90?
I would say that again, this is more on the social science part of it. Well, if you increase, I would say that the percentage of 99.1, is more or less there, kind of fixed. But if you increase the numbers, then your numbers of the 90 will grow. But the ratio is kind of fixed, especially for a very large group.
What are some examples that have broken this rule?
Yeah, so as I said earlier, there are smaller communities. Then you can actually get a whole lot more active participation. That's what we've seen in the commercial world. Smaller groups, tend to be able to influence, more participation, whereas larger groups tend to move towards this 99.1.
What qualifies as user-generated content in Google's and Yahoo's eyes? Does cut and paste count?
Okay, so how Google and Yahoo and even Bing classifies as user-generated content is actually a lot based on how the website is being qualified. So if you have things like blogs, forums, communities, okay, these will tend to be classified as user-generated. And the other thing is also they look at the freshness of the content, right? So if you can, for example, syndicate content, from Twitter feeds, or link them to Facebook posts, right? Then that will activate the search algorithms, to kind of classify it as fresh content, and therefore, URLs that have a lot of fresh content tend to be surfaced higher. Yeah.
There are so many social networks. What are the best practices to manage them effectively?
Well, to manage them. Okay, well, like I said, there are. It depends on your objective, right? If your objective is to have reach, as I mentioned, some of those, social networks that I mentioned, like Facebook, Weibo, and all these, those are actually, more for reaching. And then you bring them in, and then you go into smaller groups, and you can have things like WeChat and so on for deeper engagement. The thing is, I have to be also very cautious that this technology, the technology part of it is always changing. Right. I mean, just now I mentioned that Facebook is for reach, WhatsApp is for engagement. But now, what happens when Facebook acquires WhatsApp, which is happening, right? That's why I know I'm trying to move away from the technology, but it's more like you have to figure out what is the sort of reach versus engagement that you see in all these different social media, and then use them accordingly. They evolve over time, and they have to, right? Because it's a very new space where all these guys are playing in, right? So they are evolving. The technology is changing. That's why I'm trying to move away from the technology and talk about reach versus engagement. So bear those in mind, right? And know what your objective is and what their objectives are. And then you need to match and pair accordingly.
Are there any other questions anyone has? I got one more on here. It's kind of open-ended. It's just a question mark. So maybe they didn't understand anything you said.
Oops.
Well, if there are no other questions, or if you're just a little bit too 不好意思 to ask Waikong in front of everyone, or if you can't figure out how to type a message on WeChat, then please make sure that you do talk with him at the break time, which will be in a few minutes. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, wait. Sorry. One just came in. Just came in. Two. You guys are a little bit late. Slow trigger finger. Okay. What have you found to be the most helpful to help convince organization leadership that social engagement at the corporate level will require substantial investment of time and money?
Yeah, that's well. Honestly, that's something that we. I mean, coming from the social. I mean, coming from the enterprise social media space, there's a lot of things that we see. And well, Peter there at the back, he's my partner in crime, and so we go into a lot of enterprises, and we found out that there are two very interesting group of people typically that we talk to, right? The people who understand social media and who have no money, and the people who have money but don't understand social media. So the trick is to find the intersect, right? Well, one of the things that Peter and I have found out, right, is that as you can probably know, my son is 19 years old, so I'm not that young. And so we do go, and try to engage with these people who are the senior management, right? And look at it like, okay, this is social media, right? And how it will actually help the organization as a whole to reach its objectives, right? So in the commercial world, people are talking a lot about, profits and revenue and cost and all that, right? So we try to translate that, social media and how it's actually engaging into, dollars and cents. But I think the important thing is, how do you quantify the social media, okay, and the interactions that are there, to meet the organizational objectives, right? Because the senior management, they're always looking at, okay, how do I, achieve the organization objectives, whether they be, a number of people who are converted, or budgets and so on, right? They look at those things from the dollars and cents, and numbers. So you have to do that translation, right? And a lot of times, unfortunately, if you go to Facebook, they'll give you a lot of Facebook likes, right? So how much is a like worth, So you need to translate, those metrics into something that meets the organizational objectives. And, that is actually where you will be able to sway, the thinking. Right. Sometimes it does take a long while, but that is one way to do it. Okay, to convert it into something that is measurable, and that's achieving the organization objectives.
What were the web resources that you displayed at the end?
Sorry, D?
What were the web resources you displayed at the end?
Oh, the web resources.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The last links? Last slide.
Right.
Can we get the last slide again?
Right. I think it's further down. It's just before the book, yes. Oh, no, oh.
Carl Udi. Udi.
Well, yeah, those are some examples that, I've taken as to, how you can actually effectively use, social media in evangelism and connecting with people. Actually, one of them came from Crew.
And Travis, you said that this will be available after the session, right? The PPT? Yes. So these are the resources that were displayed at the end.
Yeah, these are some.
All right, last question, I think. No, gosh, you people are still going. Good. What percentage of budget is good industry practice?
Wow. Oh, well, to be honest, I don't really know. Right? But I think one of the things about social media, right, is that I said just now, it is relatively inexpensive, right, to do that reach. But it's also, I mean, well, let's not forget that just because it's free doesn't mean just because the social media portion is free, it doesn't mean that you don't need the human resources to do the work, right? So a lot of it is still the human resource part. In the technical world, I mean, in the commercial world, what we found is, if the site, or the media is not adequately staffed, then you'll find that it starts to fail as well, because the content needs to be refreshed, right? And when people start to click on the link, you'll find that you need to then have that engagement with them. It's not just building a site, and people will come and just let them talk whatever they want, right? You need to find out who are those who are actually in trouble, that needs for example more engagement and counseling and so on, and those who may be the next generation of evangelists who can help you. So you need to nurture those people, so that they can do that help. One of the advantages of this is, as I mentioned earlier, you can actually then get to do crowdsourcing, right? Which actually is to get the help of other members of that community or interest group to help out, right? So don't look at this as being you're the only person, the Lone Ranger, you're the Rambo or the Commando there, looking to do all the work yourself. Okay, harness the power of the crowd, the like-minded individuals. But all these projects need to be adequately staffed. Okay, although social media is free, you still need to staff it, right? I think there was a discussion that I had with Marilyn yesterday. Because she actually runs the student site, right? So she was saying that she sends emails out to these people, and occasionally they reply. So my question was like, then how do you scale this, right? Because if you scale this, then you still need to have people behind it. Yeah, this is only one channel to reach. Yeah, it can reach a lot, but once the people come in, as Ken mentioned earlier, right? The harvest is plenty, but the workers are few. So you still need to have workers.
Thank you so much for sharing your insight and experience with us. And thank you guys for your questions.
Thank you all.